Phil, some colourful characters on that invitation list to the White House, and apparently the Vatican isn't so pleased.
Yeah, I think there's some concern about the affiliations of some of the individuals there, particularly pro-choice individuals, people that don't necessarily work in lockstep with the Vatican's perspective on some of the key tenets of the Church's teaching. When you talk to White House officials about this, their point is this. There are going to be 15,000 people on the White House lawn for the Pope's arrival ceremony on the 23rd. And so it's more that there's just a large group of people. They're not controlling everybody's there. They're saying that there's no intended slight to the Vatican with this move. But as you said, Bonnie, I think there's been recognition of it at the Vatican right now. And there's some concern, at least a little bit of concern here, because one of the biggest problems with this visit, at least potential problems, is that this becomes political. I think that's what everybody's trying to avoid, but more and more as we've become closer to this, gotten closer to this trip, those problems have started to arise.
But as you well know, Phil, everything is political, and this Pope is definitely a Democrat. What does the White House want politically out of this visit?
You are convinced 100% that this Pope is a Democrat. That's I'm going to have to check the Vatican for comment on that, Brendan. Look, I think when you talk to White House officials about this visit, first up, they're very excited. You remember back March in 2014, the president had a one-on-one with Pope Francis, and it was one that he referenced over and over again in press conferences and public remarks for pretty much the next 6 months. It had a real impact on him, but more importantly, I think he sees Pope Francis as somebody who can help push initiatives for the White House. You talk about things getting political. The Pope obviously speaking out on climate change, speaking out on inequality. Those are issues the White House wants to seize on and move forward with. But there are issues, obviously, the White House breaks with when it comes to abortion. The Pope has called out pretty much the entire international community on Syria, which has been a major weakness for the White House. So I think the White House is cautious because they know that they can't control what he's going to say. He's going to say things over the next week that maybe they don't necessarily agree with, but they're going to try and take the things that they agree with and use them to move forward on their agenda, guys.
Who would have been in charge of actually deciding who the invitees were, Phil? And did the White House really invite 15,000 people, or is that just the number that's going to turn up?
It worked a couple of ways. There's a chief of protocol who I feel so bad for based on having to plan for this over the last couple of months. They reached out to organizations that were prominent in the arena, and not just Catholic, kind of across the religious spectrum, from Hindu, Muslim, other Christian organizations. And so that's been kind of the driving force behind the visit. One of the interesting things, guys, I think, about this visit in its entirety is the top-tier lawmakers and administration officials that are Catholic. Vonnie, you have to think about it. Vice President Joe Biden, Catholic. House Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi, Catholic. Speaker John Boehner, Catholic. So a lot of Catholics very excited about this visit, guys.